Welcome everyone to today's meeting. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting and will be available to view on the Fire Authority YouTube channel. And just members, everyone aware that the microphones are always on, so please just be quiet when others are speaking. Thank you very much. Apologies today, Elizabeth.
No apologies from Fire Authority, but apologies from Richard Clinton, Barry County here, and apologies from Ian Lloyd and Ben Murphy.
Thank you. Welcome you too. Item 2 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of January 2026. Minutes can be found on page 5 of the agenda. There's contact with the minutes that are correct. Item 3 is declarations of interest. We've not had any declarations come through. Everyone, no, okay on that. Item 4 is public participation. I'm not aware of any participation. Thank you. Okay, item 5 is just a short update for myself. Obviously, we only had a meeting just recently, so not loads to report from there, but just obviously an announcement yesterday from Treasury about the simplification of the Green Book, which is really great for areas outside of the south and the southeast to make investable propositions, particularly in the northern areas like ours, much more viable, which is great to see. And I know Mayor Rotherham has been pushing for this for quite some time, so that's excellent to see. And we've also recently seen, I think it was last week or the week before, the policing white paper, which set out the government's ambition to rebuild public trust in policing with an emphasis on rebuilding neighbourhood policing, which obviously Joe and I warmly welcome that as well. And obviously, our residents deserve, and our businesses as well, deserve the best public services we can bring. The Deputy Mayor and I have made representations on the importance of assuring local accountability and the unique needs of rural communities in our patch, and making sure that they are very much heard at the national level when it comes to funding of police and fire rescue services. Anyone wants to raise on anything, or we all? Okay.
Yeah. I have some comment on the policing white paper, if I may, and I'll probably get a shot for saying it. I appreciate that you've had an emphasis, and I'm sure the Deputy Mayor has, on the needs of the rural communities, but I for one, personally, think there's a lot in that white paper in terms of reorganisation of police forces, etc., etc. The devil will be in the detail, but I think we've got to recognise that policing is stuck 5 decades ago or 6 decades ago in terms of its governance, and I think that at least they're willing to have that conversation and that consultation. So I, for one, wouldn't shy away from engaging in that. But there's something positive to say about your government, David.
Oh yes, Joe.
I just to agree with Councillor Dow. Another rarity. But yeah, there is an awful lot in the police reform white paper that is to be welcomed, particularly. So I made some representations to the Home Office last week. I hadn't realised it was actually the same week that it came out, but it felt like a very long week, the week that the white paper came out. The things I think for us to keep an eye on are, as the Mayor has just said, actually just ensuring that we are championing rural communities and making sure that the changes around neighbourhood policing don't dilute the need to have rural policing in areas across our region, to ensure that we've got really strong governance still and oversight and assurance of the police, because there is a risk of mega forces in which actually the accountability becomes diluted, and so actually that's the other thing. And then really being aware of the changing nature of crime, the fact that probably 2/3 of crimes taking place with an online element, that requires different skills in policing. So getting that balance, which is in the white paper, around neighbourhood policing, being there, which actually we had some brilliant representation yesterday at the Policing Crime Panel from members from North Yorkshire about their experiences of increased visibility of neighbour policing in parts of North Yorkshire, from Monk Fryston and South Milford and around Richmond. So actually that's really welcome that people are spotting that, and they made those representations, but that you need that combination of visible policing in communities, but you also need that expertise around those new types of evolving crime, whether that's safeguarding hidden harms around child sexual abuse or online fraud and cybercrime. So it's just making sure that we've got skills in the force that enables the force to deal with all of those things. But I think probably, as you said, rare occasion, relatively aligned in terms of where we think things need to go. But I've already made some representations.
And another point that's raised by Chief Constable yesterday is the flux of our population at certain times as well. Obviously, a population of circa 850,000, but we get 40 million visitors a year or something. So, as the Chief was saying yesterday, it almost feels like a bit of spin in place, making sure that the force is resilient all year round. But as we've said there, it's not just about that neighbourhood, it's actually so much of policing now, and crimes are actually being enabled through online presence, for example, which doesn't necessarily even need a police officer. It needs specialists in that field, which is not necessarily a police officer, it's actually some specialists from there. So it's just been able to adapt with modern times. But I agree with you, it kind of feels like policing has been stuck in a time that just doesn't exist anymore, and we're having to adapt. I do welcome that paper. I think it'd be good just to keep track of that paper and how we can represent in that. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Item 6, the main agenda item. So the draft Mayor's general budget and preset proposals for 2026-27. Before I bring Mike in just to go in more detail, the paper, I'll just run over a little bit of a brief overview of it, if I may. So it's a report of myself, which was initially considered at our last meeting on the 23rd of January. The budget and precept is entirely dedicated to the funding of North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, and in my capacity, the Fire and Rescue Authority. So keeping the public safe through my police fire crime responsibility is the single most important responsibility that I hold. It's crucial to ensure the financial stability of our public services for them to deliver on the expectations in the police and fire plan that Joe and I set out last year, and specifically in the case of the fire and rescue plan. It's fair to say that the fire service Joe and I inherited would have gone bankrupt if we're not taking the decision and action we did last year. It's crucial that we fix the £21 million funding gap that was frozen precept between 2011 and 2014 was a real priority for us. Our fire services, the first time since austerity, being able to actually invest and to grow in the service. Just yesterday, the Deputy Mayor and I visited North Allerton Fire Station to see one of the brand new 16 fire appliances that will help keep the public and our firefighters safe across the region. A wonderful investment to see. Had we not taken that action last year, then the Langdale Moor fire last year as well, would have seen basically the straw that would have broken the camel's back on that. And instead, the fire service was able to respond with the only thing in mind being the operational need. The scale of the fire really was quite unprecedented, and is a testament to the commitment and bravery of our firefighters and others from around the country, and farmers and gamekeepers and landowners and the public. There was amazing. There's no loss of life, and I'm sure we'll agree that we owe them a debt of gratitude of the work that they conducted. This has also been a historic year for another reason, with Richmond Station having the first all-women crew in North Yorkshire's history. Fire services growing and investing, and it is a place where everyone we commend, and that crew very much can demonstrate. I'd like to thank Joe, the Deputy Mayor, for police and fire and crime, for her commitment, dedication and passion to ensuring we are delivering the best public services for our residents and our businesses. The staff in the police, fire and crime directorate for the valuable role they play in supporting the Deputy Mayor and I, in particular Michael Porter, who brings a wealth of experience and knowledge in his support to the Deputy Mayor and I. And the firefighters and staff of North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, who quite literally walk into dangerous situations most people would certainly run away from, and they're very much the best of us, and steps outlined today will make sure that we are investing in them and supporting them. This paper sets out the financial context of North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue and my recommendation for introduce a £9.60 increase for Band D properties in York and North Yorkshire, setting the 26-27 mayoral precept at £116.62 for Band D property. Increasing the precept is not a decision I make lightly, and I have considered multiple factors in reaching this decision. There were a number of factors where I considered determining the mayoral general precept, and in consulting on and recommending the precept, I outlined 3 mayoral precepting principles that I would like to apply to making these decisions, and these were the minimum possible burden on local taxpayers, having an effective, well-managed public services that keep people and deliver value for money, delivering on local public priorities for both services, and including improving the safety of our roads. These principles ensure a balance between effective public services and the pressure many families are facing. Last year's precept ensured we could enable the stability in our communities, increasing prevention and public protection work, ensure operational readiness and preparedness, ensure adaptability to changing risks and demands, especially environmental, but also our ageing population and vulnerabilities that we see. Ensuring sustainability, securing the services financial footing in infrastructure. This year's precept proposal seeks to maintain and improve delivery against the fire and rescue plan and the objectives set out last year. We received just over 2,600 responses to the public consultation, and I thank those who took part. This consultation found we had a 57% of respondents supported a precept at this level. I asked the Deputy Mayor to write to the Chief Fire Officer and ask for assurances around value for money. The Chief Fire Officer set out in the response his view of the impact the precept funding would have on the fire service and each of the proposed values and in relation to the core principle I proposed. Clearly, the outcome of the local government financial settlement has factored in, and to lobby the Housing Secretary expressing concern around the reduction in the government grant and once again calling for fire authority funding to reflect our rural needs. The Deputy Mayor has also continued regular engagement with the FBU. Finally, road safety is a priority in the police and fire plans, and personally for me and for the public, and with the public that I meet on a regular basis across the county. I hope we're all able to move forward on the ambition together with both local authorities, and with the backing of mayoral funding and support of our partnership, it is time for us to be brave and show real leadership in this space. The North Yorkshire Police Fire Crime Panel met on the 21st of January and unanimously endorsed these proposals, noting the much improved financial security of the fire and rescue service following the long period of instability the service had faced for over a decade. The work the service had done, in particular the pressures the service had faced responding to the Langdale fire, and for assurance around the level of reserves in case pay awards are higher than anticipated. I'll over to Mike now just to run through a bit more of the budget, and then we can take questions if that's okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mayor. So I'll take the committee through some of the more technical aspects of the report and ultimately the voting process that follows. So the reporting agenda item 6 sets out the Mayor's general budget and mayoral general precept proposals for next year. As members will be aware, the Mayor's general budget for the coming year comprises solely the budget for North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. There are no other mayoral general functions included within this budget. All the you have to consider today are unchanged from those presented at the authority on 23rd of January. Noted at paragraph 3.11 of the report, there does remain a small number of outstanding funding and grant settlement confirmations from government. For the fire service, these are not expected to be material, and any adjustments will be made in year one's financial figures. Turning to the recommendations, members are specifically asked to approve the Mayor's proposal to implement a mayoral general precept of £116.62 for a Band D property. This funds the fire and rescue service. They're also asked to approve the Mayor's general budget for 2026-27, including the use of reserves and the associated calculation of the precept and council tax rates, and to approve the overall fire and rescue service budget for 2026-27 and note the medium-term financial position set out in the report. The Mayor mentioned the budgets presented in the report were discussed at the Combined Authorities meeting on the 23rd of January, and the report explains the financial context in detail, supporting the need for the proposed £9.60 increase in the fire element of the precept.
The entirety of the precept will continue to fund North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. From that point on, I'll briefly set out the statutory process from this point, which is set out in Appendix 5 to the report. Combined Authority considered the draft budget as previously mentioned on the 23rd of January, and following that meeting, no further comments or recommendations have been received from members. Under the legal framework, the Authority now has two options to take forward. Members can choose to approve the budget and precept as presented today, or alternatively, with majority support of at least 2/3 of the members present, excluding the Mayor, which in the context of this meeting means 3 members, excluding the Mayor, the Authority may issue a request for revisions or amendments to the budget. Members wish to propose revisions. These must be submitted in writing to the Mayor by the 8th of February. Should such a request be made, the Mayor must then consider the recommendations and respond in line with the statutory process. If no such recommendations are received by the deadline or the committee approves the budget today, the budget and precept will be deemed approved. That concludes the introduction to the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Joe Collins, I know you wanted to come in and speak on this, so thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to just draw members' attentions to a couple of things in the report and to add my support to the Mayor's opening remarks, particularly around the mayoral principles that we applied both in the consultation and then in how we looked at level of precept could be in order to invest in the public services, deliver the value for money that the Chief Fire Officer set out in the assurances that he gave to us, but also ensure that we're delivering on the Mayor's priorities as set out in the Fire and Rescue Plan. It is really difficult to make those decisions around levying taxation on people, especially when it's your own region, and it's something that you know is going to affect people across the region. It's not something that we took lightly, but this is a minimum level that enabled us to retain the current level of the fire and rescue service by limited investment in order to focus on the priorities in the fire and rescue plan. We did seek, as the Mayor set out, these assurances from the fire and rescue service, and we're making ongoing representation to MHCLG around the formula and the way in which that works, particularly in areas like ours where we know we've significant rural areas where we still need to maintain appropriate fire cover, but are reliant on on-call fire stations and the goodwill of people in those communities who are our on-call who do an amazing job. I just wanted to draw people's attention to the reserves from last year, which, as the Mayor set out, did stabilise the finances for the service for the first time in quite a long time. And actually, had that not happened, that the Langdale incident, which was managed really successfully by the service, actually might have had a very different outcome. Finally, just on the road safety partnership, there was a conference, the first regional conference on road safety took place on Monday. With partners, and really good to see the exec member and cabinet members from both local authorities who were in attendance at that event, really kind of embracing the partnership approach between the emergency services. Yorkshire Ambulance were there, your National Highways were there. It was a really, really positive event looking at how we ensure that we are focused as part of a partnership approach on making our roads safer. The National Road Safety Strategy was published at the beginning of the year, and that sets out the kind of national targets that the government is looking to achieve by 2035, which is a 65% reduction in the number of people killed or still injured on our roads by 2035, and 70% reduction in the numbers of children and young people killed and seriously injured on our roads. Just so that members are aware, for us in York and North Yorkshire, that National Road Safety Strategy would mean over 250 fewer people being killed and seriously injured every single year on our roads across York and North Yorkshire. And for children and young people, that would save 2/3 of a primary school class of children if we're able to meet those government targets of the national strategy. As the Mayor said, I think those are really lots of things that we should be focused on. They are things that we need to monitor through the partnership, and just to draw attention at point 6.4 in the report, that is where the funding is set for the Road Safety Partnership, which has been on temporary funding arrangements for the last 3 years on a stable financial footing for the longer term and enable us to take a more strategic approach across the partnership. So really just to all I wanted to say on road safety, also just on the fire and DEFRA and Langdale, just to update members that DEFRA officers have confirmed that they are attending and are coming to Langdale on the 18th of March, which is in response to the representations that both the Mayor and I and the Local Resilience Forum and the Fire and Rescue Service have all been making to government. So those officers are coming on the 18th of March. And finally, just to ask the Mayor, just to make sure that he continues to make his own representations to DEFRA about the risks of wildfires on moorlands and to ensure that they understand how we need to respond to that in North Yorkshire. I think this is a really positive budget and this is the minimum level we can achieve in order to retain the service that we need in our region.
Thank you. Joe Coles. Let's go in there.
Yeah, if I could just say a couple of things about fire and road safety as well. So it's really very important that we continue to invest in that service that covers our whole region, and obviously geographically North Yorkshire is a huge area that needs covering, but York is at similar risk unexpectedly and seeing more fires, and also we have had some peatland fires as well, given that we have those within our city boundary. So the investment is really very much welcomed. And road safety is hugely important to all of us. I know it is, and I had anecdotally understanding from the leader of City of Winchester that they have similar challenges to us around road safety, and particularly around people using our rural roads and not so rural roads for high speed driving of various vehicles, and just the impact that the average speed cameras have had in that authority are just astounding, and pretty much their road safety issues caused by that kind of driving have been eradicated. So I think it's really important that we continue to look at what we can do to save those lives that Joe Coles has outlined. It's really important that we do that for the benefit of our whole area. And thank you for the investment and consideration of our communities that you've put into this.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Yes, let's go in there.
Yeah, I won't repeat the general thrust of what I said at the last meeting, but let's be clear, this increase in precept, what was planned last year, and we had to increase last year, and the trajectory was a £6 from memory increase that would have dealt with all the issues that we've had to deal with because of historic freezing of precepts. We all accept that, all accept that the investment was needed. Indeed, you visited, I think you said, Northallerton to see a new fire appliance as a result of that investment that we approved last year. So I'm talking specifically about what's happened between last year and this year. We know what's happened. We've had a massive decrease in government funding. Now, I accept there is no alternative if we want to keep that trajectory of investment and safe financial safety, if you like, robustness of the fire service, that we will have to support increase. But I'd like to add a further recommendation in recognition that this has been forced upon us by a reduction in government funding, something along the lines of recommendation 13.1.4. The Mayor and Lead members write again, I know that you have lobbied, Mr. Mayor, to government, highlighting our disappointment at the financial support reduction and a request for further consideration by government to avoid and the special circumstances that the rural county of North Yorkshire brings, especially. Something along that line. I think you've probably got the drift of it, so I've moved that formally.
Yeah, we have said previously, Councillor, we're happy to do that, is to make those proposals again. Joe and I already have done, but we can certainly link in with both leaders as well, if you like, to have more weight behind that. And as I say, I think the real positive around this investment as well, actually, we're not just maintaining or even going backwards in the fire and rescue service. This is about investing for the future as well, which we've seen in terms of the impact of Langdale last year. If we hadn't done the precept last year, that would have really put us in a real difficult situation because of that lack of investment over such a long period of time. Our equipment and training wasn't even up to standard because it hadn't had that long-term investment. So being able to do that again is an opportunity that we should take on. Oh, Jane, what's up?
I was just going to come back on a couple of things. So certainly the engagement with government funding and the funding of that is ongoing. The MHCLG have told us this week, and I will make representation to the new National Resilience Wildfire Advisor that the government has appointed recently, particularly around ensuring that the risks that we have in our fire rescue service are properly appreciated by the government, and also to clarify that the difference between what was proposed in last year's papers and this year's papers is £3.60 difference between the 6 and the 9.60, which is 30p a month. For taxpayers in our region, absolutely don't minimise that, but that's what the difference is. It's 30p a month in order to ensure that we're maintaining our fire and rescue service. I just think it's important that we put it in that context. It can seem like a lot, and that is on a Band E property. So obviously people on lower bands who we know struggle more likely to be struggling financially will pay less than that. But for a Band E, it's 30p a month.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm afraid I have to correct you, Councillor Coles. If you look at the increase in its entirety, it's 80p a month that we're asking residents to invest in our fire and police service. And it's not that long ago, maybe 3 years ago, under a different police, fire and crime commissioner, that we were arguing about cuts and trying to protect our fire stations and fire services and police forces. And can I just say, Mayor, how much better it is to be sitting here talking about investment. Yes, I don't mean to minimise the 80 pence a month increase that we're asking residents to pay. I don't minimise that at all. But how much better it is to be sat here talking about investing in our police and fire service. It's very popular at the moment. You know, the way words gather currency at times, and everybody seems to be using them. The one that I've noticed people are using quite a lot at the moment is the word counterfactual. Have you come across this? Let's think about the counterfactual. So if we didn't do that, what would happen? So if we had made those cuts, what would have happened? If we weren't investing in our police, fire and crime service, what would happen? Well, I think Langdale has given us a really clear example of what could have happened had previously proposed cuts gone ahead, and why we need to make the investment in our fire service and our police service to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I think on the back of the government's long-awaited road safety strategy, I think, Councillor Coles, you have illustrated a very clear and very telling counterfactual point, which is that if we don't make these investments, then we could be looking at the equivalent of 2/3 of the primary school being killed on our roads. And that can't be acceptable for anybody sat around this table. Just in terms of the consultation, Mayor, I know that the watching public will think that 2,500 response out of an 800,000 population is not that great a response, but actually those of us who've been in this game for a while know that getting 2,500 consultation responses is not a bad return at all. I am interested, given Councillor Coles has put around the amount of children who are being killed on our roads, if you've got any responses from schools as to what they would like to see happen in terms of road safety with the investment of 80p a month that we're asking our residents to make.
Yeah.
Just for point of the meeting, Councillor Kilbane, Councillor Coles is Deputy Mayor for Police, Fire and Crime in this meeting, not Councillor Coles.
Yes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. My protocols are all over the place. I beg your pardon.
I was just going to come back on the consultation point. So you have to be a council taxpayer in order to be able to take part in the consultation, which means that under 18s aren't included in the consultation process, which I completely agree is a gap in the kind of process, and maybe something that we could look at including, albeit in an advisory way rather than being paid council tax. We do, however, have real challenges. People under the age of 50, not even young people, but just all age groups under the age of 50 are underrepresented in the returns that we have, despite the amazing work that the comms and engagement teams have done. And it was over the Christmas period. It's a really difficult time to be doing a public consultation. We have problems with City of York, and again, our teams out over the Christmas period trying to ensure they were engaging with people directly to get the consultation balance right between the different parts of the region. They've done a tremendous job. But we are looking at both people under the age of 50, and my concern there is that those are the households who are more likely to struggle with the larger increases in council tax. Certainly the pattern in terms of the enthusiasm behind households tends to fall within the older age groups proportionately. So the more that we can do to ensure that we've got really good representation from the, I like to say that under 50s are younger age groups, but certainly under 50s are the groups that we really need to focus on in the next year's consultation, and in City of York, and anything that council participation in that consultation to ensure that we are properly taking into account the views of everyone in the region would be really helpful.
I think just to add into that as well, it won't sound a huge amount to the public, but I think in terms of the increase in respondents to the consultation over the last year or so has gone up quite significantly. We're talking about in several hundred more than the new step, and also the amount saved on doing that consultation now. It used to be a very inefficient, expensive way of actually getting a consultation, whereas we now spend a fraction of the price and actually get a lot more out of it. Coming back to one of your earlier points as well, we have written to every school in York and North Yorkshire to get their priorities and thoughts around road safety and how they feel, and particularly all respondents to a school have felt that, particularly in North Yorkshire, has to be said that it hadn't been seen as a priority around road safety and the safety of their young people. So obviously, again, working with schools around that wider piece around making sure that school streets are safe, so looking at speed reduction, safer streets, Park and Stride, which I saw an example of that in Northstead last week in Scarborough. Not only does it benefit the school and the safety of the school, residents really like it as well. So the investment in, obviously, and as it's been touched on there, you know, I think over 300 people have lost their lives on the roads in the last 10 years across our patch, which is shocking, quite frankly, I think. And it's not just the impact it has on the person that loses their life and the family and loved ones, the impact it has on and those very serious incidents as well. So it's a wide piece that we are determined. I know Joe Coles and I are very determined to make real headway on this, because to know the figures that we see, the size of our roads compared to other areas is frankly shocking. So I do welcome any more comments or questions for that. I'll just hand over to Elizabeth, because the voting arrangement is slightly different to this than normal, just so members are aware. So also,
I made a proposal. Has that just been accepted? Or?
So what we're going to do is we're going to do the recommendations as they are, and I will take it away, and we will write to formally with yourselves and the Joe Coles and I, as we already have.
So you've accepted the further recommendation?
I've accepted the recommendations on there, and we'll take it away. One to take away to write.
Well, I've actually formally moved an additional recommendation, so it's in the minutes with the wording that I voiced. Are you second?
Yeah, I'm happy to do a second. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, on the same page. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do we have a proposal for Joe Coles and I, with leaders who write formally again, like we already have done, to government to outline this?
Very happy to.
Yes.
Just in terms of comments on that, Obviously, we have already done so. I'm very happy to do so again because we will always put region before anything else.
I appreciate that, and I hope you have a bit more success with this government than we did at times with our government.
Won't stop trying.
So a proposer? Seconder, all those in favour? Okay. And now we'll move to the separate one, which is on this. Thank you.
So vote in relation to the draft budget. The draft budget is deemed to be approved unless vetoed. So the vote actually going to take is whether or not to veto the budget. But that's the procedure set out in the statutory guidance within the report. So, it's a name vote. So I'll read the names out. And please indicate for, against, or abstain for a veto.
So can I just be absolutely clear? We only vote for if we want to veto the budget. Very good, thank you.
So we're voting against if we want to approve the budget.
Yeah. Okay, right. I'll read members' names one by one. So, Councillor Dadd.
Against.
Councillor Douglas. Councillor Kilbane.
Against.
Councillor Best. Thank you. That's unanimous.
I'm not sure that should have been as complicated. We made that out to be. Yeah. Okay. So thank you everyone on that item there. Okay. Item 7, which is the forward plan. I'll head over to Paul Clapp just to run over anything on the forward to bring up. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. The version attached is relevant today. A few points to members' attention. Next meeting is on the 27th of February. We already had on the general budget for the combined authority for that meeting. As you see, there are 2 extra items on there now on the public list. One that's travel fund and another for the year 2 Trailblazer. Looking ahead to the next meeting on the 27th of March, just a couple of changes to note. One is that the Yorkshire to Scarborough rail item will move back to the 5th of June. And the transport capital programme report will be a broader report capturing the required transport fee. Looking ahead, the new Director of Transport has carried out a bit of housekeeping on the transport items across the forward plan, and as a result of the next version, might just see a couple of days. 1 or 2 items, perhaps urgently, or being pushed further afield. Other than that, I say all of the equivalent.
Members happy just to know, Paul, remember that.
Can I just ask a quick question on the forward plan? When is it envisaged that the allocations for things like transport funding, highways funding, and that will be decided by this combined authority? At what date?
I think, from my understanding, some of that will be in the 27th of March report, which will now be a broader report.
27th of March, not
27th of March, yes.
Yeah.
What I don't think is prejudice any work that's going on. So, firm information.
That's where we're set.
Just to add to that, Chair and Councillor, that it mentions in the general budget report that will come to the next meeting as well. Because the transport funding has come through a new single settlement approach into next year, there's a requirement for us to submit a strategy to deliver that single settlement. I think the deadline is the end of March for an initial draft for the first year's delivery to come through, which will probably be what comes to the March the year. And then by the middle of the year, around September time, the requirement to give a strategy for the settlement period. So members will have an opportunity to vote on that as that comes through.
Right, sorry. Yep. Okay. Item 8 is just any urgent business. If there are none at this time, then I thank you, everyone. The next scheduled meeting is on Friday, the 27th of February of this year, 10:30 West offices in York. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.